Both. Okay. So do you have an idea in your mind? Any idea, mobile application related idea that you might have been pondering on? Okay, think about it while we introduce ourselves, and then probably we will ask you to share your ideas with us, because our session basically is about taking an idea, working on it, and how do you take it to an application and then monetize it. Okay. So my friend Subodh Pushpak, he is, in my opinion, the best guy for Windows Phone here in Delhi NCR. So he has been working on Windows Phone for almost like 1.5 years now. He's built a lot of applications. He does a lot of work on Windows Phone. You should actually go and check out his applications. Probably you can share the link later on. And so he will be driving most of the talks today. I will pitch in, jump in, share my thoughts, share my ideas on what Microsoft has in mind when we think of Windows Mobile, and how do we envision the whole concept of taking an idea and monetizing it. Myself, Bijoy, I work as a developer evangelist. I know a couple of people out here in the crowd. I've seen them before. So for the rest, I focus basically on the application development platform, which also includes the Windows Mobile part and the Windows Phone now. So let's go ahead. Let's begin. And do you want to sort of start and get some thoughts and ideas on what people?
Right, so this is all about you, as he put it, that it's all about you. We are putting apps before people or behind people, right? So any ideas you might have right now? So the basic, so when we were talking about this session, right? So basically we were more concentrating on if any ideas you might have. So the idea which we have right now is that you give us an idea. What we'll do is we'll try to do some prototype of it. We'll also show you how to make money out of it, right? Which is quite.
It's interactive. This don't take this session as something that we want to tell you something that we have in mind. Basically, the thought is all of us come with some ideas. You know, you face problems and you get an idea that how can I solve this problem. So let's talk about one or two of those ideas, and then probably we can discuss how do you take this idea to a phone as an application, and how do you monetize it on the internet or on the web. And we also, like Subodh has created an application that's based on location and location-based services. So he will explain how he built that application if nothing comes up. Okay, but that's secondary. We first want to understand. Say for example, you have an idea. I want to do this. Now we can share. How can you do this? And what are the steps, logical steps, in implementing that idea on the phone? What are the hurdles you will face, and how can you mitigate those hurdles? So that's the idea. Any thoughts?
So currently I am planning to develop an application for our organization. So for our organization.
Okay. OCR.
For our organization.
So actually I am very new to this Windows phone, so I never programmed any kind of phone. So the initial problem we are just in POC kind of phase of what we do, where we go.
Okay.
And the major challenges which come from the leadership and is that whatever you develop should support most of the phones which are available in the market.
Right.
So it could be Android phone, it could be Windows phone, it could be Indian phone. So I'm not at all aware of where to start from. Is it going to be PhoneGap, or what platform, how to start, and is it going to make a phone-based application or web-based application? And second thing, most of our organizations compared with actually I am from enterprise applications of my own. So most of the programs which we are using are based on the Microsoft platform, and currently we are moving most of the web service part to the WCF services right now. So would it be possible to consume those services from the Windows mobile or any mobile platform only?
Okay.
Just
fair. So basically your thought is, if I want to build an application, how do I go about choosing whether it should be a phone native application, it should be web, what are the technologies I should use to get started? Basically the beginning part of the mobile app. Any ideas that you have in mind, what kind of an application that you would want?
So I would tell you where I started from. So I thought it would be better if I choose some standard thing which is available on all platforms like JavaScript and so.
Forget about the technology. Forget about the technology completely. Any thought? What kind of an application would you want?
So I would be wanting an application which is fast and user should be able to connect easily.
Forget that also. Any idea? What is the scenario? The use
Okay,
case?
here's the deal. Is there something which your phone does not support right now? Is there any function which your phone does not support, but you wish that functionality was there in your phone?
Not sure. Most of the part I would say is grid light display should be there.
Okay.
Fair enough. Let's come to that. I will touch upon most of your points about how to go about choosing a technology. What else? Any thoughts? Any ideas? Yes, please.
I have one idea. Actually, I was out somewhere, not at my home. So one of my friends phoned me and said that I wanted this software. So he told me that I don't have access to internet, so you download it. And I was not at home, so I said that I will download when I reach home. So my point was that can I make an app where I can give the command if my computer is running. I ping my computer and check whether it's up or not. And if it's up, I give a command to download that software directly into my PC.
Okay, fair enough. Some sort of a remote access to your PC, internet based, right? Okay, fair enough.
And there is one more requirement because I do not find any solution right now. So the problem is kind of suppose our organization's user is traveling somewhere, maybe in flight he wants to submit his time card from his mobile phone, and at that time the mobile is switched off, so there is no network available. So temporarily the data should be in mobile. The moment he gets connected, data should be synchronized to the main object.
Fair enough. Valid scenario. What else?
I was thinking something related to GPS. Let's say someone is maybe at a particular place is unfamiliar. Like let's say a Delhi guy comes to Noida and he's unfamiliar. So it's a GPS based or location service based application. So the application tracks his position and gives all the nearby, let's say the eating outlets and all the nearby places of interest, or maybe the exact location on historical, whatever interest.
Fair enough. I think you'll be the most happy person today.
Actually, we also thought of something like that.
I think the demo that Subodh is going to show will exactly cater to that scenario. Yeah, please.
I have an Android phone and Samsung phone, so I'm just talking about those phones. In the SMS, okay, I've seen that though the phone has advanced, but the SMS functionality has remained like it was years ago.
Right.
Nothing exceptional in that. Just in Android, I can sync all my conversations with one person. That is like a chat in my Android phone, but nothing special. Like I cannot mark them forward, I cannot like mark them 100, like red 100, but I could do it with Gmail.
Right.
Okay, so if I'm doing a conversation with a lot of people over SMS, then some important SMS might get lost.
Okay.
Also, if I'm like forwarding a SMS to somebody, and I'm forwarding like a Gmail, a mail to somebody, okay, so the mail also, in the mail all the information is there, like who sent it, when it was sent. But like when I forward a SMS, then it's like only I have forwarded.
Got your point. Got it. So basically, advanced features for SMS management, some sort of
One of the features I was also thinking about yesterday, it was like we have filters in email. Let's say if I have someone from @hotmail.com, someone sent an address is from @hotmail.com, so I send it in my Hotmail filter,
Right.
Hotmail folder.
Right.
So why can't
Similar
we have
things for SMS.
yeah,
Okay.
same thing.
Makes sense.
As soon as the SMS comes, it categorizes it into friends, family, business.
Right. So basically, management softwares, some sort of, either it is mail management, SMS management, contact management, whatever it is, information management things. Any other idea? Yeah, please.
Actually, I want to build an application. If you are running out of memory, then you can directly, and still you want to.
Which memory? This memory or?
No, phone memory.
Okay. I would love that application if I'm running out of memory.
If you still want to receive something from somebody, it may be GBs or MBs, and then directly you can receive and upload it directly to your mail.
Okay, fair enough. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
First of all, I would like to say thanks to Mr. Risu and you all to organize this beautiful event again and let me connect to them.
Thank you.
Right now, the main problem with me is that I'm SharePoint developer from last 6 months and I want to scale that SharePoint application on Windows.
Okay.
So is it possible that can we develop a SharePoint application which run beautifully on Windows phone?
Okay, fair enough.
And the second is that can I use the passport type of stuff on Windows application like that if there are multiple accounts
Single sign-on.
yeah, single sign on.
Okay.
So it's possible that we can use on Windows application.
Okay, okay. Fair enough. You don't have any specific scenario in mind.
No.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so actually quite interesting thoughts, and if we look at them, we can bucketize them into 2 or 3 primary categories. One of the things that you mentioned, you mentioned is basically location based. What you mentioned is some sort of a system software, okay, system control using your phone. You mentioned something related to personal information management or information management. What you mentioned are probably enterprise scenarios, more of enterprise-based things. What you mentioned is again system category. Okay, so these are bucketizing broadly. Now, you mentioned something. You wanted to say something?
No, this is good. I mean, when you talked about the location base, I was thinking.
Right. So now, when you have bucketized those ideas, you primarily the first thought that comes to your mind is, okay, now I want to, let's say, build a system software, system-based application, or an application that has system features. Okay, what do I need? If I want to build a GPS-based application, what do I need? If I want to build an enterprise application, what do I need? So, broad categories will briefly define as to what are the features that you need to exploit in the platform or on the, the device or whatever it is. And it will give you an indication as to what are the things that have to be supported and not to be supported. So say for example, in your case probably GPS may not be important, okay? Or in your case particularly information management, GPS may not be important. On the other hand, in your case what's important is, can I access the low level APIs of the operating system to do something on top of that, okay? You could also have a valid question, why can't Windows Phone, or for that matter any other phone, do all of those things? Like, if I can think, why can't somebody else think about that? Okay, and why don't you do it into the software itself? Secondly, for your scenario, a lot of authentication may be important. It's important to preserve the access to information. Not everybody should be able to do something. Secondly, it has to work with a specific scenario already, which is like you have an enterprise application, you need to integrate it. You mentioned WCF services. How can I consume the existing services on the device or on the phone? So these are questions, big questions that come to your mind. To begin with, now let's say, again, when we were thinking about this session, we were talking, so Subodh can probably walk you through the steps that came to our mind as to what are the things that we will have to do to create an application, and then probably you'll get an idea of what things you need to cover.
Yeah, so trust me, I was having the same questions when I started off. Can I connect to a WCF service?
You can take this in.
So can I connect to a WCF service? Can I call a SharePoint service here? So at heart, let me confess, at heart I am a programmer, right? And I identify with you, right? How hard it is, how easy it is, and so on. So right now, what my intentions are to show you a brief demo, right? The idea was that I'll pick up, or will pick up some idea from you and start developing it right here now, right? And show you what are the capabilities and how easy and how intuitive it is, right? But I liked his idea. I was having the same idea. Actually, that idea came up when I was thinking of attending this and coming to this session, right? Vijay just mentioned that we almost forced him to have this session in Noida.
Oh yeah, seriously. Seriously.
And the biggest problem Delhi faces right now is the commuting, right? The commuting is really tough, right? Metro is there, right? And most of the people like to travel with metro, right? The problem is that most of the people like me are not aware of the schedules, right? They're not even aware of how to take, when to take, and so on, right? So I thought of this idea, why not have the metro on as an app, right? So what I'll do right now here is I'll like to walk you through how to bootstrap this app, right? So you have already thought of an idea, right? So the next step will be how should we proceed, right? How should we start programming, right? So again, when I say programming, I will be more concentrating on what are the steps, what are the things you should look forward to, and they are just a startup, right? You might ask questions right there and then I will try to answer them, right? But again, they are just a way forward, right? And ultimately the goal is how do you monetize it, right? At the end of the day, if you are planning to make an app, right, and trying to host it on marketplace. By the way, what is marketplace? So you already know a lot of stuff, right? So if you try to put it on marketplace, you will try to make some money out of it, right? Soon there will be a flood of applications coming, right? Apps coming, right? And shall we start? You got the idea?
And just one more thing, to add one more thing before we begin and actually get on to the demo. To mention, there is something, a philosophy that you have to keep in mind when you are building an application. And as Girish pointed out, application is important, yes, no doubt. But what is even more important is the person who is going to use that application. How comfortable will he be in using that application? Does every application require you to learn basic steps like clicking, going forward, going backward? Okay? That shouldn't be the case. Every application should not have a custom way of going forward and backward. There should be some way that a person who has that phone can easily navigate through all the applications in one single uniform way. Okay? Similarly, how do you access information from varied sources? So today all of us are on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. We have our Outlook contacts, and we have distributed our contacts in 100 different places. If you want to first call, let's say, a friend of yours, the first thing is, so where is this number? Is it on Facebook? Is it on Outlook? Is it on the contacts that I have here, or is it somewhere in some other application? Ideally, you would want that all your contacts should be available in one place, just like you mentioned. It's an example of information management. It should be available in one place, and you should be able to access them in a unified manner. You should have to run through 5 different applications to do that, right? Secondly, pictures. Okay? If you have 10 different types of applications that do 10 different types of things on pictures, you don't want them to all have different places to store them. You would ideally want that you could do any thing with any picture from a particular application, right? Or vice versa. You do something from an application, you should be able to use that photograph in some other app. So this is a very, very important theme that we have focused on in Windows Phone. That your information, okay, it stays unified. At the same time, the person who's using that phone doesn't have to go through different experiences in doing different things. And this also translates into what you have to do when you are building an application. Okay, that's very, very important. Okay. So if you are sort of creating an application and thinking about navigation, how do I manage navigation in my application? And there is something wrong. Something wrong. Okay. Ideally, you should be focusing on what should my application be doing, not how it should be doing. The how part should be provided by the platform, by the tools. Make sense? Yes? So let's, one more thing, and I'll try to keep this short. So, we just try to caricate this on a slide deck. You have an idea. Now, what is the next step? First of all, you need tools. You need tools to start implementing your idea. What are the tools in case of Windows Phone 7 development? Actually, what I will suggest is, how many of you have never, seen a Windows Phone 7? All of you. Oh, fantastic! Have seen. You have seen. Okay, we will show it to you separately. We'll take you in a corner and sort of show it to you. So, even if it is a Hello World application. Okay, fantastic. At least 30% of the people. Now that's a good start. For those who haven't done it, you go to create.msdn.com. Okay, download the tools. The tools are all free. So one of the first things is, oh, I will need to buy Visual Studio to build an application. No, you go download the tool set and install it. It takes not more than 30 minutes to download it, install it, and build your first Hello World application. It's as simple as that. One installation will give you everything that you need. It's not like I get the SDK from somewhere, I get the tool from somewhere, then I had to set some class paths or something like that. So it's all there installed in one go. Once you're done with that, yeah, that's one thing I love to take up on. Because I remember I've done a lot of Java coding in my college days, and half the time I used to spend in just configuring my machine in those days. It used to be even worse at that time. So I still remember those days. Now, once you are all set with that, what do you do? And over to you.
Right. So, as Vijay said, to build a great application, you need great tools as well, right? You can obviously go to create.msdn.com and download them. What I'll demonstrate over here is how to start up with and bootstrap it, right? Let's start with it, right? So, how many of you are non-programmers who doesn't know even an iota of programming?
How many of you are scared to open up Visual Studio? And you are scared, okay?
Scared, okay.
Scared. I was actually hoping that, oh good, there is somebody. Okay, good.
I can't live without Visual Studio.
So the idea over here is, after this demonstration, you should not be, and you will not be. So, okay. So shall I start with the beginning, from the basics? Right. So let me open this Visual Studio. What I have done over here is I have already installed the SDK, right? And I am running on Mango Beta, right? So Windows 7 has a version, has two versions right now, as of now, right? One is the Windows 7, which is already there, right? It is in market, right, for the consumers to use. The other one is the Mango. It is in beta. It's for the developers, right? And it's the next wave of operating system for the Windows Phone, right? So what we'll be doing is we'll be developing for Mango version, right? So it's called a Mango version, right? Okay.
To
So
clarify one more point, it's like the update to the previous version. It's not a different version.
right.
It's not a different operating system, and it does not mean that you have to buy a new phone. Okay, so take that off the mind. Yeah. Every new version means going and buying a new phone. That's not the case.
Thanks for clarifying.
So over a few, you have to once your phone is outdated, and then for a new version you have to buy a new phone.
Okay, I don't want to be as harsh as I would love to be. I always say Android is doing what Windows Mobile did 10 years back. Okay, so we have exactly the same challenges that Android is facing right now.
Right. Too many hardware.
You just get segregated in the market. There are 10 different vendors selling 10 different types of phones with 10 different features and everything, and you just don't know what to do with that.
And now I think that's going to be the deal.
Sorry?
With the Microsoft, with the Google and Motorola deal.
Let's see. They want to keep it separate.
Okay, so I'll start with a new project, right? And how many of you have seen a Windows Phone 7 app before?
On the phone?
Any app, any kind of app.
On the phone
Windows,
itself or on the emulator?
anywhere. So I just wanted to show you an experience of Windows Phone 7, right? Right?
That is already on the phone.
Okay, this phone?
Yeah.
So I can just demonstrate it right here.
Just show it to the
So this is a Windows Phone 7, right? It is running on Mango right now, right?
I'll hold the mic for you. You can operate.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So it's alright. So as you can see that it is really touch sensitive, right? What I'll do for now is I'll open up let's say I'll open up this app, This app is of eBay, right? All of you know eBay, right? Right. And the good thing you can see over here is that this is something like this, right? We call it a panorama view, right? So in one snapshot, you can see 10 different things, right? With a click of a finger, right? So you don't have to go up, down, somewhere else. But this is the beauty of it, right? All flowing, right? So my take over here is that what we'll be doing is that we'll be developing an application, right? So we'll be keeping all these things in mind, right? For example, coming back to it, right? These tiles, isn't they beautiful? Right? Would you like to build them? Okay, so let's do one thing. I'll try to keep our focus on the app itself, but just because it has so many capabilities, I'll just try to show you how easy it is to create one app, right? Let's concentrate on these tiles as well, right? So what I'll do over here is that I'll create one app. I'll name it appropriately, maybe Metro Delhi, right? And so there are various versions of it, as you can see, right? A Windows Phone application will just give you one page view to it, right? And if I go ahead and develop a panorama or pivot application, that will give me a different view of it. I'll use each one of them, right? But let me choose Windows Phone application. It will ask me which version do you want to code from.
If you are targeting Mango, you will choose 7.1. If you are targeting the previous build, you will choose 7.0. They are backward compatible in the sense that if you create a 7.0 application, it will run on 7.1.
So here you are, right? It has developed, it has the Windows, the Visual Studio has automatically generated for code for me, right? So you don't have to write all the mundane tasks again and again, right? All the bootstrap code is already in place, right? It is a running code right now. I just wanted to show you the emulator as well. So emulator is having the real ROM device which my phone has, right? So technically there is no difference between the emulator and this phone, right? It is just running on your computer just so that you have an experience how it will work when it actually works on a device, right? So this is the emulator. My application is already being executed, right? I can go back. I can see that Metro Delhi, the application which I just created, and because it has no coding as I said, just the coding what Visual Studio has already created for me is there, right? Okay. Now let's develop something, right? I'll keep the emulator running, right? There are many more features over there which you will love as a developer, but again, going back to the demo. So first thing I'll do is let's have the same tile experience, right? So coming to think of it, what would you like in an application which so let's suppose I have a Delhi Metro application, right? As a user, as a consumer of that application, what features would you like to have? Map, okay, map is one, okay, we'll have map. Selection of route is another, okay. Okay. Beautiful, okay.
I was not aware about this location.
Okay.
So I just can say came out of the metro station from Sector 15, I think. But I'm not aware about this. Just
Okay.
it's our location.
Okay.
So can we have a application that can provide the exact map that contains the metro route as well as the road route?
Wonderful. Please. I'm loving this because now all of you have started thinking exactly from a consumer's point of view, the person's point of view. Okay. Generally, a lot of times in the desktop world, it still is okay because when you build an application, although you should always keep your end user in mind when you're building an application. But in the desktop world, the spectrum of users is very limited. Here you are talking about people who are consumers. You're talking about people who are going to use an application in a real world scenario rather than a business scenario only. Okay? So a lot of things change. a lot of new possibilities emerge, and a lot of new combinations have to be taken care of. It has to be simple, it has to be intuitive, it has to cater to real world scenarios, real world features. Okay? And that's one thing that you should keep in mind when you are thinking of an application. Actually, we had that small slide, just go back to the slide thing. After the tools thing, you create a sort of a prototype. Okay, and that's what Subodh is doing right now. He's creating a prototype of the application. Now the prototype necessarily does not have to be an end user experience. First, you put all the features that you want to sprinkle inside your application. So that you know, okay, this is the thing that I can do, and this is the thing I cannot do. Because when you're prototyping, you will discover the limitations of your idea, the limitations of the platform, the limitations of the scenarios. Okay? So don't, from the day one or from the first instance, don't start to build an end user application. Create a prototype, discover and validate your theory or your idea. Okay?
I would like to know about one more feature. So if you can add one more feature like some sort of modification, if there is a delay because of network snap, or like a couple of stations were closed because of
Wonderful idea. I'm sure Subodh is now getting tempted to create this application and put it on the marketplace.
So, yeah, I will. And Pradeep is a close friend, right?
No.
Okay, so yeah, the next slide is about all the struggle, right? So yeah, so we'll do that. We'll do exactly the same.
So this is the programmer's way. Now to start into that struggling board.
Yeah.
Like the possibilities are endless. If you would ask, like, we are just 30 people and we have, let's say, 30 possibilities, and if you go in the market, there would be endless more possibilities. So, like, as a developer, you should also keep in mind the memory constraints and how your application will run on the actual device. So, like, where does the developer draw the line? That this is what I have to stop, because possibilities can be there, because individual users can be there, and you have to draw a line somewhere that I have to stop here and give the this question answer.
Right. Let me take this and I'll link it to the question that you had asked about the SMS thing. So, when you could think of those features, why couldn't Microsoft think of those features, or why couldn't somebody else think of those features and put them in the application itself? And that's very, very closely related to where should we draw the line. If you get a list of, let's say, a laundry list of 20 features, how do you prioritize? That's one very important thing, because otherwise you will just go into a never-ending, marathon. You'll just keep on writing applications, you'll never be in production. There is no silver rule or silver lining to it, but in my understanding, in my experience, I've seen, look at the top 3 features, top 3 needs of the people. Okay, there could be 100 other needs, but the top 3 needs. Okay, first build your application around those top 3 needs. What are the non-compromisable things? The things that have to be there, otherwise the application is meaningless. Okay, look at those top 3 things. It could be top 5 things also. And 3 is not a hardline number. It's basically, if you have 20 things, bring them down to 25%. Okay, and just focus your application on that first. Build it, release it as a V1. Okay. It may make sense to just focus on one feature, because that one single feature, that simple feature, is so killer. It is so essential, and nobody has done that. So you could just make one simple feature, build your application around that, and launch it. Okay, and then you always have time to come back and add more things to it. Another thing is, in our world, we could sit and dream of anything. But when we release it to the users, that's when we get a real check. How are they using? What are they doing? The top 3 features that I thought, maybe they are the worst features that people want. So you have to validate your hypothesis at some point. That point has been going.
I'll just add one thing. The other day I was with Times of India. So Times of India guys are putting their app on Windows Phone. So we were doing a brainstorming around how the app should look like. So the team
screen is very small. And like we just said, people will be using it in a real life scenario. That means, let's say you are in a train or you're in a bus or like you are sitting right now, and your attention span is like you're playing games, you're from get in, get out. So you look for that information that is important to you and get out of that. And most of the time people don't look at like 3 to 4 swipes within the phone and then they are like, done. So he said a beautiful thing that I can bring a lot of bells and whistles to this app, make it very artistic, very beautiful, but it is not going to be very easy to use for a user. You lose interest. So now there is a new paradigm opens up for developers. When you are developing apps, you need to understand the user experience, very critical. Why we say in Windows Phone that people come first? Because this phone is targeted to consumers first. Not that it is not targeted to enterprises, but increasingly people are using phone both in enterprise and home scenarios, same one. So if you ask me, 70% of your time would go into actually conceptualizing the app, iterating it by doing multiple reviews with the users, how they will use it. For example, this actually opens a very interesting scenario. I know after the marketplace opens up, there are tons of metro timing apps that are going to come out. So there's going to be 1 or 2 apps which people are going to use. Huh?
1 or 2 apps that are going to be the most used apps.
Exactly. And which kind of apps exactly which are most intuitive, which understand the user's psyche? Let's say if I need to go from Noida to Connaught Place, how in one single click I can get that information, right? That's going to be the differentiator for the people who are developing apps. So while you are developing apps, take back your developer hat and put a user hat and think, okay, if I'm a user, how in the least possible time, by leveraging the power of the platform, I can get that information out. And mind you, there is a lot of power in the platform. Okay? So user experience becomes very, very, very critical.
So there were a couple of ideas over there, and from a programmer's perspective, the question was more regarding the memory consumption and so on. So as I said, there are lots of tools, right? Most of the tools which you can right now use for Windows developing a desktop application, Windows desktop application are available now for the Windows Phone as well. So there is a profiler, there's yet another, you can actually see how your application is performing under stress conditions, right? You can actually write a unit test case for that, right? So there are several tools for that as well, right? Okay, so coming back to the problem, right? I will address each one of them, right? I'll try to build a prototype of them. So we talked about notification, we talked about maps, we talked about I have reached the last mile connectivity, right? As regards to this, right? Okay, so we'll talk about that as well, right? And we'll keep in mind what you suggested, what are the best practices. We'll keep some because at the end of the day, this is the prototype, right? So, but we'll try to keep that as well in mind, right? And at the end of the day, the consumer experience, right? So right now, what I'll try to build over here is we'll keep it, and because Windows Phone is so much about tiles, notifications, and so on. So what we'll do is, as programmers, we'll build tiles, right? Okay. No, it's all right. I think I can. Is it audible? Okay. So maybe I can speak louder. Am I audible? Okay. Anyway, the second thing I do is, so there is lots of good stuff over here, right? What I can also do is there is also a toolkit, right, which is also free, right, and it is on Code Project, right? So lots of people are contributing to this platform, right? And what they are doing is they are building tools, they are building controls, right? So what I'll quickly do is I'll add a reference to that toolkit. By the way, I'll also show you how to monetize it by showing some advertisement on this phone, right? But again,
this is the toolkit from CodeFlex, right?
yes. Okay. So, and it is from Windows Phone 7, right? So what I've done over here is just to make it more intuitive, right? I've included that toolkit DLL over here, right? So that I also get hold of some of the more stuff I want to have, right? Okay. I'll refer to that toolkit. There's a way to do it. So all I did over here was to refer to that toolkit so that I can have a reference to a tile, right? And because I want the tiles to be arranged in an order in which the Windows Phone 7 have it right now, right? So what it has is a grid of n number of rows and 2 columns, right? So we'll have it same way, right? So I have defined a grid, right? And I have defined 2 columns in it. What I'll do is I'll quickly create few rows in it. And you can see that the program is quite intuitive, right? The moment I say row definition over here, the rows are getting created over here on the right hand side. Can you see it? I'll create yet another. So that there are 3 rows over there. Can you see the designer surface? Right? Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create give me a second please. What we want is a hub tile.
These tiles are not included as part of the SDK itself.
No, it's a control, right? So I want to use an advanced version of that control. So that's why it's a toolkit, but it's also free. You can download it and use it.
But these tiles are not included as the tools in
It's
Windows
right.
Phone.
No, it is not there.
So,
Right? And that's how the most of the development takes place in even in Silverlight, right? And this is Silverlight. So what community people do is they contribute to a project, right? If they are deemed suitable enough to be included in the framework itself, they are down the line, right? So that's how it works.
basically they are still built on the same building blocks.
Yeah.
You can do this without this toolkit also, but it will be just a little bit more difficult. If somebody has done it, put it on CodeFlix, you can take it and use it. If it is good enough, it may get included as a standard package in the next release.
Right. The first thing was route. So what I'm doing right now is that I'm placing that tile into grid columns and rows, right? I'm just placing it. I'm positioning that tile, right? So, and I want to place it in row 0. So first functionality we named was the routes. The second was locations. Where am I right now? Third one was maps. What was the other one? Pricing. Okay. Right, and I can include images as well into that. Let me include into one of them.
From a developer's perspective, look at the ease of coding.
Right.
How many lines of code you are writing and what is the effect you can see right there.
And it's instantly visible over there. Can you see that tile rotating, right? So I'll run it once just to show you the effects of this. there you go. You already have types, right? If you want to have fluid behavior around it, you just want to wrap it around and so on, just put it into a scroll viewer. I'll come to the business scenarios in a moment. I'm putting the scroll bar somewhere else, that's why, that's the problem. Oh, I'm so sorry. Right, so all that will be scrollable now, right? Okay, now let's code certain things about it, right? So for that we will need some data, right? Agree? Right? For now, because we don't have the real data, let's put some dummy data. Agree? Okay? Okay. So what I'll do over here is, so as you all know, metro runs on many routes, right? There's a red line, there's a yellow line, and so on, right? And there are stations within that every route, right? So we have a collection of collections, right? So there are lines, right? And there are stations within each line, right? So what we'll do is we'll quickly create some dummy data just to represent that, right? So the idea over here is that we'll have a number of routes on which metro runs, right? And some stations within each route, right? So that we can easily locate where we are, where do we want to go, and so on, right? Just to represent that thing, I'll quickly create one class. And just to bring your point, right, I'll stick to some coding practices, some really good coding practices from an architecture and design point of view, right? So here there is something known as MAVM, right? There is something known as model, view, and controller, right? All the good architecture pieces, right, are inbuilt into this framework itself, right? So what I'll do right now is I'll create a view model, right? I'll create a model, a data, right? And you will see that the view is totally decoupled with the model, right? And there is something in between which is interacting with each one of them, right? So you automatically get all the good things you can get out of a framework, right? There's hardly anything you can do wrong over here, right? From a design and an architect point of view, right? Okay, so I'll create a model view over here, and this is just a representation of your model itself, what the real model will be looking like, right? This data can come from a WCF service, or it can be built into the system, it can come from a database or whatever, right?
Just to, because you mentioned the WCF talk. So in an enterprise scenario, this is a lot that you do. You have a WCF service, you can connect to the WCF service, fetch the data, put it into the model of your application, and then work with it. So it depends upon what is your frequency of fetching the data. You can do it as many times, or you can just pull it once, work with it, store it as an isolated storage, in case of the disconnected mode that somebody talked about. If it is not connected to the internet, what do I do at that point? Because one of the things is, in case of a mobile device, you cannot take internet for granted, connection for granted. There will be a bad spot, a hole, where the connection won't go. So what do you do in that scenario? Your application shouldn't just stop working like that. Have some sort of a cache inside your application. And that can be either inside the isolated storage, or it could be a database, a local database which is now available on Mango. So you can create some sort of a cache within the database.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating few classes around, so all the good practices as he mentioned, right? I'm just creating few classes around what will be my station look like, what the station property should be like, and so on, right? So I'm creating objects which I'll be anyway be using in my application, right? So I've just created a route, I'll just create a station. Let me just create a route over here. by the way, the code I have written over here is 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 a is a boilerplate code, what we say that, right? And what it signifies is anything you change on the model, right, it will automatically be visible to your view, right? There you can see there is a lot of event handling code over there, right? So, but that is something which anyway you write, right? So, what properties will a root have? Maybe a name, right? So, I'll quickly type some. So I am creating a property actually which represents name of a root, right? And this is all .NET programming. You are already aware of it, right? There is no rocket science over here. I'll also have a station, and station will also have a name, right? I'll rather name it name. That's the problem. With me? So a station has a name, root has a name, and root also have a collection of stations, right? A root will have a collection of stations. Agree? So I'll have that thing as well. You might notice this class which is available throughout .NET, especially in WPA or WPA Silverlight, and it brings all the goodness of the observable design pattern you have, right? Just a while, because this might take a little while. Let me create a variable. Okay, and we'll have multiple roots as well, right? So what I'll do is I'll again create an observable collection. Trust me, if you have to do the same thing while using normal programming practices, you might have written at least 5 different kind of classes. When this publishes an event, then this class subscribes, and this program subscribes, and so on and so forth, right? That is all in bit, right? Okay, so we have defined the data structure, right? We have defined ideally what a metro line should look like, right? It will have number of routes, and on each route we have multiple stations, right? And route will have a name, and each station will have a name. Obviously, there can be a number of other properties as you discover them, as your requirement grows, you can go on adding over here, right? Okay. Now we also need some dummy data. Agreed? Okay, so let's create one, and that when we create that, after we create that, we'll be done with the boring part of it, right? So just bear with me.
So this is a real world scenario also. You know, when you are working on an application, you won't have the data, the real world data. Okay, so how do you still continue working on an application without having the real data? And then actually support did a lot of research to figure out how to get that data into this application, the real thing. So he referred to Wikipedia, Benny Mentos Wikipedia page, and from there he got a lot of information. And you can then sort of figure out a way to pull that information to your application, or probably create a database. See, Metro's database will not change very frequently. Okay, right now, yes, we are in the stage of transition, so you will have new changes. But ultimately, the Metro's database is not something that will change very, very frequently. But this kind of an application may not need to be connected to the internet all the time. Okay, that's another thing that you should keep in mind, because when you are building applications for the end user, you should think about how many people will be comfortable keeping it connected to the internet. That's one. Okay. Secondly, even if they are comfortable, if your data is not frequently changing, it is better to keep the data locally on the application to minimize the data transfer and the data usage. So those kind of things have to be in the back of your mind.
So right now what I am doing is I am creating few dummy data. Just to save time, let me do one thing. Let me do this as a string, because anyway we are just using the names, right? Let me go back over here. So let's name it station A. So we have just added one root. So this has ended, this will end to we have a red line. What other lines we have? We have an airport line as well, right? Okay, enough of it, right? I'll just return this thing. Okay, now what I want to do is, I have this data, right? Now I want to feed this data into the view, right? So what I'll have to do is, I'll have to set the view, I'll have to link this view with this data, right? So I'll quickly create some code around it, which will be again property based. Just few more moments please, and then we'll be logging.
Struggling phase.
Yeah.
This is where the developer is doing things that he's not really enjoying, but he has to do to reach to the next stage.
And this is all the plumbing code. Trust me, if you get around with this once, if you understand what's going on with once, uh, uh, that's the learning path you must take, right? And you can easily see that it's not that steep learning curve. Right? You are already coding on mobile, right? And all the tools you already know, right? All the stuff you already know. You're just programming as if you are programming on a desktop application, right?
This is basically the business logic,
Right.
which will be different for every application. And there are ways to sort of minimize this effort also. Now we didn't just want to make this a very complex session about too many things. So how do you go about doing it in this simplistic way?
So my question, one question lies exactly at this phase. That let's say whenever I try to develop some app, I feel that whenever I reach this phase, I feel so frustrated that I stop developing the app.
See,
So how to overcome this phase?
okay.
There are two.
I have a great idea. I'm proceeding towards it, but when I'm at this stage, it's very frustrating.
Completely agree. And that's
Because
also the
it's something that I don't know how to proceed with the technology. Which features to use, what to use, how to use.
right. And one of the things is we as developers tend to get very tempted to start writing code. Okay, so we jump into Visual Studio and start writing code. Then we just get lost in the syntax. Okay, we get lost in the various classes, we get lost in the syntax. One recommendation or suggestion is shut down Visual Studio for that phase. Okay, write the pseudocode very clearly on a piece of paper, on a whiteboard or anything. Okay, have a very clear understanding of what are the classes, what are the relations between these classes, what are the data types that are going to be used. Now once that is figured out in a very simplistic way, you'll have a brief idea of what you want to achieve. Go back to the internet and find out how others have done this already. Have they used connections? Have they used generics? Have they used some patterns? The problem is we try to find out, okay, what is the pattern? We don't know what we want to do. There is a pattern for something. You should first know that something, what you want to do. Then you'll be able to find the pattern. Okay. That's basically how you can overcome this. And that's once in a life cycle of the application that you have to do. Once you've done that, then basically it's all about finding it.
Right? Now I've done all the plumbing code. I have the data. I have a place where I can expose that data to a view, right? But I don't have a view right now, right? Agreed? All we have is this type, beautiful looking type, right? Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll like to see that when I tab on this route, I'll be navigated to a place where I can see all the routes, right? And let's make it a panoramic view, or for that matter, let's make it a pivot view. So I've added one view. I've just added one view, right? Visual Studio has kindly enough generated the code for me. All the plumbing code is there, right? I don't have to write the same code. Most of the tasks which you've said, and trust me, any tool you use, they will not generate that business logic for you, right? You will have to write that. You will have to write that. You will have to go to that struggling phase, right? What properties do you need? Where do you do that? And so. And trust me, all the stuff which I was writing was all about whether I will be having a name or not, and so on, right? When I came to this view, you see all the things are there, right? Most of the code is there already, right? You just remove certain things, you just add certain things, and you're there, right? Okay. What I'll do is I'll just created this page, and the page name is. Oh, I've created one application here. Oh, let me remove it then. So we'll name it right. and now on clicking of this tab I want to navigate to that page, right? What is that? What the code should look like? Navigate to that page. You're right. So it's as intuitive as this. Let me do some event handling over here. Those who are already coding in ASP.NET or desktop will identify this as they do it daily, right? Every hour of their life. Okay.
How many of you have never programmed a .NET application? Anyone here who's not a .NET developer ever? Okay, so you use Java or something else? SAP. Okay. Anybody else? Most of you are familiar with Visual Studio .NET, right? So that's.
So you mentioned about the thing about the database that many of the users might not be able to access the internet every time and it's not favorable to access it every time. So supposedly we have configured our application to use, let's say for this example, according to the Metro present database. So if there are some changes in the database, the structure doesn't change, then we can easily do an incremental thing and get it. Supposingly they add or remove some particular thing from their database and we are accessing that. So how do we overcome? Will our application start giving error because it cannot identify that?
What do you mean by what do they remove?
Like they must be having some fields in their database or whichever manner they would have.
No, so there are two things. Remember that. Your database, your application database is your application database. It has no relation to any other database. Now if you are populating your database from, let's say, a database hosted by Delhi Metro, let's assume that, although they don't have it, and I'm not sure whether they'll do it or not, but let's assume they host it. So you'll have to make sure what is the technique of updating or synchronizing the database. Are you going to delete your entire database, bring the database and put this here? No, I wouldn't recommend that. There has to be some sort of a mapping so that your database stays constant as it is. The structure of your database doesn't change. What you do is you fetch the information that you need from their database, map it, translate it, and push it into your database. So then nothing, it doesn't break your application. Ideally, in those kind of scenarios where this has to happen frequently or often, I would suggest that you work with a database that exposes itself either as a REST-based service or on Atom or an RSS feed or something of that kind. So that you can just query it, get the data, and push it into your database.
So at the end of the day, it's a good architecture style to loose couple your things, right? So essentially your question is, what if one thing changes, right? So here's the big deal about it. Let's suppose I introduce a new property at my code behind, right? That's what you're asking me. What if I introduce a new column, right? We'll do that.
Even if I don't do, if the backend which I am
anybody does it, right? Yeah. As long as your model changes, how does your view react to it, right? So that's what the architecture portion is, right? How do you lose couple, right? Those good things are already there, right? But yeah, as he also said that you should do certain things to mitigate that as well. Okay, so right now what I'm doing is I'm creating my view, right? I'm creating my PowerPoint. What I want to do right now is that I want all my rows to be listed over here as in pivot, right? I should be flipping my fingers and look through all the rows of a Metro, right? I have my database right now, right? And you can clearly see what code I write over here has got nothing to do with the data I have. All it has to do is the data structure, right? There's a difference between a data structure and a data itself, right? Okay, so So what I'm telling the view is how should my stations look like, right? How should my name of the stations look like, right? And because they are a collection, right, I will like to list them as list, right? So let me use a list. Okay, what I'll also like to do is I would like to display the header of each route, right? Is it a blue line, is it a yellow line, or it's a violet line, whatever it is, right? So I can put a header as well.
You can indicate the header by a color.
Yes, we can do that. You mean to say like if something happened, this color should work and so on, right?
Like if it's a red line.
If it's red line, so we can indicate it by a
Oh, definitely you can do that. Right? If we have time, we'll do that. And there is a very good way of doing that. The technology we are working on, right? Okay. Let me refer to the data structure
It
because
supports the Cellulite supports the graphics also.
oh yes,
Line and
big way.
circle.
It supports it big way.
XJS supports it, but I haven't used them in Cellulite. For Windows Phone.
Let's run this application. Let's see. Oh, I've done one thing over here. Rectify it. I have not attached. I hope the name is. Just wanted to get the name right. Okay. That's done it. What I've done over here is I've told this view get the data, right? Map each of the route and make one pivot of each, right? Make one screen of it, right? And within that screen get all the stations, right? And list them, right? That's what I've coded for right now. I click over here and I see nothing. Okay, I've done some mistakes over here. Let me see. So let me show you all the debugging features of these things. I must have misspelled certain things over here. Let me see if the data is coming.
We still just double face.
So the data reflex is not being set at code.
Has anybody done mobile coding on a different platform here? Android. Sorry? J2ME. Sorry? J2ME and Android. So, like, in the back of your mind, can you compare the coding experiences on this platform? Sorry? It is. Right.
What about the emulator?
The emulator is very good and the best part is the UX.
Sorry? Simultaneously. Exactly. And the thing is, you first build your application, then you deploy it on the emulator, then run it. So that's the only time. And one of the things,
It takes a lot of time. Right? Like launch
launch it and all.
the emulator as well.
And I think it's been a little while since I last used Eclipse, but I think it wouldn't have improved much in that field. Debugging features and profiling features of Visual Studio are almost unbeatable anywhere else. So, the kind of debugging that you can do here itself. Sorry? Right. Yes. On the marketplace. Yeah, we'll come to that part in a while.
Visual Studio 2010 has that automatic testing where we can create automatic test cases, and like in those where we can input data and it would repeat it. So can this be also used on Windows Phone 7?
That's specifically for web application. For Windows Phone from Visual Studio, or it's a third party? Okay, I'm not. Is it from Microsoft or? Oh, I didn't know that. What?
What is it?
Okay, just yesterday or something, that kind of thing. Okay, I'm not aware. Have you seen that tool, like automatic testing and recording of Windows Phone applications?
Screenshots, they've given a feature for screenshots.
Run Studio.
Oh no, that Studio is something different.
That Studio is something else.
Yeah, that Studio is something different. That's not really for testing. Anyways, I'll check on that. Okay, wonderful. So you can share it after the session.
Okay, the spelling, let me check with the spelling once more.
Yes, we are getting source control must be supported.
Not VSS anymore if you're using VS28 KLS. Otherwise, you would probably want to use the one that you already have at the show.
Can you see that? I'll find it there.
So if you look at it, you didn't have to write any of the navigation code,
Navigation
look code. All you did was
Panorama
just bind it. And the rest of the panorama view, the flipping, everything that comes along with the tools automatic.
Where's my DB initializer, root, connection, station. There is a spelling mistake or something. Let me debug it once more. Give me 1 moment, please. So we have the data context. You can see that I can debug it on the run, right? I have the base, I have the count. The count of 0. Okay, the stations are not filling up. The data is the problem with this thing. Yellow line stations seems okay to me. Okay, I know. I actually basically changed the name, actually that's why the problem is. Let me again do the same thing. Let me replace it with the proper sequence. Now the data is coming. Can you see the count 1 and 2?
The depth to which you can go and
Yeah.
calculate.
Station A, station B. Can you see that? Right? Actually, I misspelled. That's why the problem was. Right? You can select. Right? And when you go back, it's still selected. Right? And all these things are inbuilt. Right? I took a while right now. Right? Because as a demo, most of the things go wrong. Right? But trust me, when you are all alone and coding, you can do it at much higher pace.
When people are not watching
You writing the code.
Right. Right. You don't do spelling mistakes. You don't do things around that, right? Okay. Anyway, but yeah, that was routes, right? So what I can do as an end user, I can click on route, flip through, and I'll get to know, right? Okay. Now maps, right? So what do you think? How tough it will be as a programmer? Maps. Okay.
I think just download the map from the site and include in our app is possible. Like the
Right.
picture or something, and
Right.
you can use panorama picture for that picture to.
That is one way to do it, but that won't be interactive, right?
You can use Bing Map.
We can use Bing Maps, right? So yeah, that's what.
Microsoft research now.
Yeah, we can do that as well, right? So you can do n number of other maps as well, as long as their controls are available, and most of the map controls are available. Maybe E3, there's a Google Map, there's Bing Map, right? So let me go ahead and use a Bing Map, right? And it is inbuilt into this SDK as a control, right? So what I'll do right now is let me create a map. So I'll need yet another view for that, right? So I'm just creating a quick view for that. I'll name it map view. Add. The next thing I'll do is that I'll go ahead drag and drop map, and you have a map. This is as easy as this, right? The only catch over here is that to use Bing Map, you should be a registered developer, right? You should, right? So you must have a Bing Map application ID, right? Because you will be using their services, you must register for it, right? So right now what I'll do is, I've already have registered one.
Is that next to paid or like?
No, it's free. It's free. So right now I have not done anything. Just place my map over here, just put my credential provider over there, so that it can really identify who am I, right? Let me run this once, just to show you that I have no coding whatsoever there. I didn't put even the navigation. That I'll have to write. Okay, map is over there. So what do you do when I have to navigate? You just put navigate, right? See, the map is already there, right? Okay. Now let me quickly do few things over here.
So one question. Mouse left button up is mapped with the touch.
Yes. For a mobile device it is.
So is it also right button up also will be there?
Right button up will be context menu. So if you put
How it will be possible to
so, so I'll tell you how. If you put your hold for a while, just keep in hold for a while, and then that will, I'll show you it on my board, right?
Sir, is that will include my location like GPS system as well or not?
Yes, that will. So it's a real life map. Let me just zoom in. I can zoom in.
No, sir. Do we have to pay something for the registration or is it free?
It's free. The registration is free.
So on the actual phone it will take automatically like using the internet service of the phone?
Yes. So do you want me to deploy it right now?
Yes, sir.
So this is developers unlock.
So, can we just go back to that? Now move from the struggling phase to the next phase.
Right.
We're almost done with the struggle.
Right.
So, this is the fight phase, okay? Now you fight with Microsoft. I've built my application, you're not proving it. Microsoft tells you it is not fine, this is not good, you should change that, So you fight with Microsoft. By the way, all the pictures, none of the pictures are created by me. I'm sending them disclaimer right away. They have copyrights, they're individual copyrights, so none of this is my work. I just use it. So, what is the fight phase? Once you build the application, you have to submit on the marketplace. Okay. Now, what happens on the marketplace? Basically, once you submit the application, Microsoft reviews it, sees whether it follows the guidelines, whether it doesn't do anything unlawful, whether it is compromising the security of the end user or anything of that kind. And when everything is fine, then it certifies this application. So typically, in a real world scenario, what happens is it will not be a one-time process. Okay? There will be 2 or 3 iterations at least, wherein they will raise some objections, then you work on those objections, you clear those things, and possibly that may be some other objections. But ideally, after a couple of iterations, your application gets approved, and then it's available on the marketplace for people to download and use. Now, the struggle phase, this fight phase, how can you minimize it? So, the first thing is there are published guidelines of what an application should do and should not do. Just go to the Microsoft website and download the guidelines for Windows Phone Marketplace. Make sure that you really adhere to whatever is written in the guidelines. Okay, 90% or 95% rather of the people who get objections is because they haven't followed those guidelines already. Okay, and right now this gentleman was showing me there is marketplace test toolkit that has been released. Okay, I'm not sure about it. I haven't checked, but that looks like something that you can validate your application on for the marketplace tests. Okay, so that will again minimize this struggle or the fight. So basically, what you need to make sure is you don't just bizarrely build your application in a world of your own and then submit it and then realize, oh, this doesn't get accepted, that doesn't get accepted. There are memory limits, there are types of things that you can do, you cannot do. Make sure that you adhere to those things and then submit your application. Before submitting your application, make sure that that phase is taken care of by you. Okay, and therefore you will minimize the time that you spend fighting and also the hurt that is caused. Because most of the people get frustrated in this stage also. At this point you feel they don't want to take my application. Okay? That's not the case. They just want to make sure that the application that is there on the marketplace is in the right order. If they don't want, because Microsoft is validating those applications and giving some surety to the people that you can go ahead and download these applications. They won't do any harm on your system. So, now I wanted to talk about it. Let me touch that now. So, marketplace requires a registration. You have to register on the marketplace. Once you register, you you can unlock your phone for development. Okay, so if you want to test your application on the real device, you have to register to get your phone unlocked. And it allows you uploading of applications, fixed number of applications for $99. So there is a $99 one-time fee to register on the marketplace. Now that sounds big, yes, $99 translates to roughly 5,000 rupees here in India. So I can't say that that cannot be, that has to be done or that cannot be done. But there are different ways. So specifically for students, how many of your students? So for all students it's free. So if you are a part of GreenSpark, you can upload your applications this sort of. For companies, it really doesn't matter. $99 is not a big fee for companies. For individuals, again, there are programs, multiple programs, and of course, Girish can throw lights on that. For now, at least in India, we have tokens, right? So if you have an application that you are ready, you have tested on the emulator and everything, and you want to upload, shoot a mail to Girish. Okay, that I have an application and I want to upload this application onto the marketplace. So you can get access to tokens that will facilitate this for now. The thing is, and I don't want to be defensive on that part, there is a real cost involved in maintaining those applications, testing those applications. We want to ensure that people just don't upload a hello world application. Okay, there has to be some filter. So yes, there is a cost. Yeah. Yeah, I told them for GreenSpark students it's all already. No, so there are 100 applications, right?
One is how many applications can you submit in $99? Second is the lifetime fee. Okay, two clarification. For students, you don't have to pay any money. It's as good as lifetime.
As long as you're a student.
Yeah.
It's beneficial to stay a student.
Secondly, for developers, you need to pay $99 to the annual fee. Because this takes care of your entire infrastructure. In a year, you can publish unlimited any number of paid apps and free 100 apps.
So a developer can build 100 apps in a year.
Practically every 3 days one app.
Also, these 100 apps are actually 100 submissions. So if your app is rejected once, then you submit it again, so that's 2 submissions. Those are 100 submissions.
Right.
Those are 100 total submissions. Any revisions, version update.
So if my app gets rejected 3 times, that would be considered 4 submissions.
So yeah,
If I
four
submit
times 4 submissions.
Yeah, that's a good
point.
Sir, one-time activation to GreenSpark account is valid for 1 year.
12 months.
I am not sure about it. Probably again, Abhishek will be able to throw light. But essentially, as long as you are a student, you can be a member of GreenSpark. And as long as you have a GreenSpark, you can upload on the user marketplace. Sorry? Given to it.
So by the way, what I have done over here meanwhile is, this is an application, right? I'm clicking over here. What this application is done that I've written the code over here. This code goes around that get my current location right now. So even if you're on phone, what it'll do is use your GPS, right, and get your current location. And this is a real-time thing, right? So when I'm running on my enumerator, and what I've done is I've also plotted sector 15 metro station, right? And you can see right over here is that it's showing you that I am over here, and the sector 15 metro station is also plotted over there, right? And if I want some direction from it, I can query Bing, right? And then this is yet another new feature in build, Mango build, right? And what it will tell me is it will just, if the Wi-Fi is good enough, so it's actually telling me what to do once, right? It will speak up for me as well, right? So while you are driving, you don't have to really look at it, right? You just keep on listening and just, it will just tell me where I am right now and drive me through. All
You
the,
have coded this drive.
no, Bing is doing for me. So there are something known as tasks, right? And this is the code I write for all those directions and so on. Right.
Basically, the steps involved here are: one, putting the map, using the map control. Second, using the GPS to get your current location. And remember, this is actually device independent. It's not basically only GPS. If your phone is on Wi-Fi, it will first use the Wi-Fi to get your coordinates. If it is not on Wi-Fi, then it will check for the GPS device. If not, it will check for the GPRS. So, as a fallback mechanism. And then finally, if it is not able to find your location, anyhow it will tell, can't locate. Okay. Once it gets your location, you have already marked, using the database where the stations are. Now you have point A and point B available. Your current location is point A, which you got through GPS, and point B is the location of the metro station. Now you send both these coordinates to Bing, to the location, route identifier, and it sends you an array of points that will take you from that place to that place, and then you can use those points to plot it on the graph or on the map.
Out of all the things, it doesn't find the coordinate, can you manually enter it?
Sorry, it can't find the
coordinates through all the mechanism, GPS, location based, then can you manually enter?
So you can have a fallback mechanism to manually enter or manually put your location, but then it will be as good as only how.
Sometimes the network may fail, like they might have.
So you can do a retry. You can have 2 or 3 tries, and if you can't get it in a stipulated amount of time, then I don't think you can enter it. Definitely, you can write code so that you can enter it manually, but then I don't think that will be as accurate as because if you already know where you are, then it's like,
right.
Why do I need GPS?
And most of the steps which Vijay, internally it is doing all those things, right? But most of the steps, like there are 3 steps involved. First give me from where to where, right? Then get me all the coordinates, then put all the coordinates on a map and then plot it, right? All these things are done by the Bing itself. You don't have to do anything as if now on a Windows phone, right? So all you need to give is, these are the endpoints. I just want to navigate from this point to this point. Plot me on the map, and it will do automatically for you, right? It will also tell you where to turn, where not to turn, and so on, and speak it for you as well, right? All in bit, right? Okay. Now let's suppose I'll run it once more. It also has, so this is something which is new in Mango, right? What I can also do is, let's suppose I want to find out all the restaurants around here, right? So I can query again Bing and send a restaurant to it. So what it will do is, it will query Bing database and find out all the restaurants which are around here, right?
So this is real time.
This is real time. Search engine, yeah.
So
Bing search engine, actually there are lots of components, not only the search engine. So Bing has location services, it has direction services, it has places of interest services, but essentially you club them together and say Bing services, Bing map services.
So can we use it as a web service or
Yes.
Oh yes, they are REST enabled actually. They are all REST enabled.
Right, all this plumbing code even you can write, because you have to write it each time. They have been really shortened right now, so it is being exposed as an API now.
So I must say I can use the DLL or use the web service.
So all of this comes as a standard installation in the map control, the upper part. Okay, right? It is a part of this. What you may need is, say for example, if you are going to use the geolocation services, you want to call them, so you will have to reference them separately. That's it. Otherwise, it's all right. There's one more thing that I just wanted to add, and that's a little important. We are not covering that here. Is all these maps can be layered. So you can actually create a map of the metro on a separate layer and store it or embed it on top of this. So somebody was saying take a picture of the metro and put it and have that. You don't need to do that. Once you have the coordinates of all the metro stations, you can just plot those coordinates on top of the map and then create the directions or those lines blue lines, red lines, and store it as a separate layer, and then embed that layer on top of the map. So that's a little way off the topic, but I just wanted to tell you that it's possible. So you can do that. You can create, hundreds of layers, each layer having different set of information. So one layer can have metro information, one layer can have bus routes, one layer can have, rail routes or whatever it is. And then depending upon, what the user is looking for, he can just, go to that layer and see that information.
So these are the restaurant. If I go to one restaurant, barista. So I think we have covered most of it, right? Pricing again is a more a function of how much data you put into it, right? One thing is left is notification. Advertisements. Okay, let me do that as well. For advertisement, you have to yet another refer a DLL for that. So I've just referred to, and it also comes along with the SDK, right? It gets installed with the SDK itself. You just have to refer it once, right? I just referred it and just.
So you're done fighting with Microsoft, and finally you emerge victorious. Okay, trust me, this is a fight where you will definitely emerge victorious. You just have to make sure that you do it. And then you have all the money pouring in. Now, how do you have the money pouring in? How do you monetize your application? And again, this is some data. These are some statistics that are available and you have seen. A lot of marketplaces talk about lots of applications, millions of applications on the marketplace. How many of these people are actually making money? Okay, number of applications is good, but how many applications actually give money to the person who has developed their application? That's one thing that you have to see. So, free applications, as we said, there is a limit to free applications, paid applications, any number of applications you can put. One more thing is, 70% of the cost of your application comes to you. So if you put it for, let's say, $10, you get $7 for every sale. $3 is kept by Microsoft, not kept by Microsoft. That's the maintenance cost of the application. So price your application accordingly as to what you really think it's worth. Now, the trend is, 80% of the applications above $5, okay, never find a user, or they rarely get downloaded until unless it is very, very specific and somebody is paying for that particular service. So now, how do you monetize your application if you cannot price it properly? Even a $10 application doesn't find users. Then you work all this and then you put it for $1. Then how do you monetize? Various models exist to enable you to fetch the cost of your application. And I won't say that one model is better than the other, or this is the approach that you should take. But it largely depends upon who your end users are, what is the service you are providing in your application, and how frequently would they be willing to pay for it for using it. So games, people won't pay every time they play. Okay, they will typically want to, worst case scenario, they will typically want to pay once for that game and then use it. Okay, so in a game, ideally, if you embed advertisements, it will not be a very good idea because people will not like that disturbance when they are playing a game. Okay, again, you can be intuitive and put it in such a way that it is there but doesn't disrupt the experience. Okay, but people, if they like a game, they may be willing to pay one-time upfront fee for continuous usage or unlimited usage. So in that case, probably a one-time fee will serve the purpose. In a metro kind of an application, a particular application will take this time. How would we monetize this? What do you think will be a better way of monetizing it? And then, and hold on to your thoughts because we have giveaways for the best idea. Because we ourselves are looking for that. So probably both you may want to note that idea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Selling to the Delhi Metro itself, because like let's say apart from Delhi Metro, let's say I develop an application for Hindustan Times. So why would a person download an application for Hindustan Times if he's getting the daily paper? If he's getting a hard copy of the paper, why would he download the application? If we sell it to Hindustan Times and they find a strategy to publicize that app.
Okay,
So
what
maybe
you're saying
you
is
can.
fair enough. That's one point.
Can we have another mic here? If you can just pass this on.
Sorry.
So one of the ways is you provide, if you're building this application for Delhi Metro, why don't you give it to Delhi Metro? You sell it to Delhi Metro. That's basically your strategy.
Like I've known some of the applications like for shopping malls.
Okay.
They sell it to the shopping malls,
Okay.
and whenever a person enters into a shopping mall, it connects to the Wi-Fi and.
Fair enough. Let's keep that idea. There are pros and cons to that idea, and we'll talk about that thought. What is the other way? What are the other ways?
For like a metro.
Okay.
So obviously metro would have nearby markets or say shopping malls or even say hotels with their in-house restaurant. So as far as this advertisement template or whatever we call it, we have placed it. So we can have tie-ups according to the specific stations which have in or
nearby.
Yeah. So no, basis nearby would be on the ping map, so it will show accordingly. But then we can have the tie-up with the restaurants accordingly, so we can have special preferences for them and include them.
Wonderful idea. Okay.
And whenever a person queries for that particular station, we have already the backend storage nearby shops which sell articles of interest. And if we can develop some logic, let's say user is searching for buying the car maybe from a nearby metro station, so we can have the nearby auto dealers and store it.
So basically, what you're saying is using location-based services and using ad-based funding.
According to the local based
and ads to fund your application or get monetize your application. What is the other way?
Well, sir, Delhi Metro, I don't think people would take their phone out and check out instead of asking. 90% it's like that. The one who is standing in front of you, you'll ask, "Bhaiya, kahan jayega? Noida kaun se stop mein?"
Wonderful. I love that thought, and that is a very, very valid thought. Very, very valid thought.
And not only that, sir, Delhi Metro, according to me, it's quite informative. We get everything standing in the train, or we have announcement also.
Okay.
But sir, I think this app should be incorporated to the tourism part of Delhi or with the main places of Delhi.
Okay.
So how to reach there? For that we can give this.
Okay.
But for Delhi Metro itself, I don't think this would be that late.
Okay. So basically, what you're saying is
Delhi Metro, I think approx 80% are normal people.
Okay.
The office goers, the students, and the friends all.
Right.
So they won't be thinking of this.
Okay. So wonderful thought, and I like that you're thinking critically about it. That's very important because that's an important part of. You may have a great idea. You like that idea. You're so passionate about that idea. You build that application, but then you realize in the real world, see, consumers and users have a very different behavior pattern. They will rather ask somebody who's standing close by, especially in India, than use an app. Now, there are a couple of things that you may want to consider in that, and I'll come to that. So, any other thoughts or yeah, sure. Disruption in the experience. Right.
Like if I need to find a route, I'll find the route, I'll close the application. However, go to the adjustment which is shown maybe. Okay, whereas when I'll just query like from Noida City Sector to Sector 50 Metro Station, what is the route, right? Okay, so while Bing is finding it, on mobile phone we can say that our connection will be slow. It may take time to bring result. So that time we show the advertisement while it's browsing. So and the advertisement should not be like pay-per-click type.
Right.
It should be like pay-per-show. Like in your newspaper, it is shown. You don't the advertiser does not know how many people have seen the newspaper. It's on the circulation. So payment will be
essentially it shouldn't disrupt your experience in the application.
Yeah.
If you are doing it, do it subtly so that I don't get disruptive, or even better, don't do it, right? Because nobody likes ads. Okay? At the end of it, ads are not something that we enjoy. I am a very, very big general opposer of advertisements. I feel, our cities, the entire view of our cities get destroyed by those advertisements everywhere, and it stresses our brain. Yeah, so all these are valid points. I'll take one last point because, okay, go ahead, and I'll come to you.
According to me, we cannot show advertisement, but to like information page, we can put it there. And if you are navigating, like if you are near Central 16 metro station, then you can get instant notification that you are in the HCL city now. Yeah.
Right. So informative rather than ads. What you are saying is information. Flash the information.
Means you are in actually giving the advertisement, but in the other way.
Flashing the information. Yeah, last
So sir, we were talking about how to get the money from the app.
Right.
As a developer, you need to have the money.
Right.
And thinking about that, most of the developers are doing right now, if they are selling their app for free, and for the full version, they are charging you.
Okay, yeah, wonderful idea. That is one more way. You give a limited version for free and charge an enterprise edition or full version for whatever cost. Now, lots of ways, and these are not the only ways. Let me give some thought into what are the goods and the bads, the pros and cons of each of these approaches. To take this first example, sell it to somebody. Now, generally, what happens is when you build an app and go to somebody to sell it, it may not work out as easy as you feel, because one, you've already invested. Your time, your effort is gone. What if they don't buy? So most of the cases you have to first go and strike a deal with them that I will build an application for you and sell it to you. Now, once you sell the application to them, it is theirs. Okay, you don't own the IP. As a developer, you have to make a choice. Do you want to keep the IP with you, or do you just want to provide the service of development? Right? So if you are just providing service of development, it's fine. You build it and give it to them. As a developer, you never know if you hit upon an idea that may be the next generation multi-billion-dollar thing. Okay? Nobody knows that. Okay? Facebook never knew. LinkedIn never knew. Groupon never knew. So things click, things don't click. And one of the beauty of mobile development is, because it is easy to build applications, you can build more applications in the same amount of time. And it is possible that one of them might just click. If you build 10 applications, one of them might click. Now, developers would want to retain the IP. So then we come to the next one.
So we can also say that let's not sell the application, but keep it on a usage base.
So,
If 100 users, if one user use, I get
absolutely. Millions of combinations. Yeah. Monetizing is not one way. You can monetize in multiple ways. I'm just talking about what we are discussing. And it's about what happens in real life. What works and what doesn't work. In what scenario what will work and what will not work. Second thing is monetizing it through advertisements. Okay? So now you say, I am here. So you get what are the offers in that close by. So maybe you could also link this with Bing Search, where it has told you were searching for cars yesterday. And today you are in Noida Sector 50 and there are car dealers nearby. So it tells you, if yesterday you were searching for a car, there is a car dealer nearby. So when you give that, that's one way. Okay? A lot of people may not like it. Okay, so you may want to keep it as an option, not as a compulsion. Okay? But that is still a valid way of advertising, because you can generate revenues on that as people are using it. His point of experience is very, very important. And that's what Subodh will show you in the Microsoft Advertising SDK. How it takes care of that. How it makes sure that the experience is not interfered or hindered, and you pretty much feel as if it's non-existent. Okay? And again, all of us forgot one very important thing. As a developer, you don't have contacts apps with people who are going to give you advertisements. So how do you even get those advertisements? You're not a marketing professional, you're a developer. Right. So that's what Microsoft advertising or API does. You know, from a developer's point of view, you are freed of that. Okay? People put their advertisements or give their advertisements to Microsoft advertising and they tell whom do they want these advertisements to be shown. To people in this application. Okay, so they can choose the applications. They can say when and where based on different parameters. And those advertisements will just get pushed on to you based on your usage. So you don't have to procure the advertisement. You just have to connect to this. Okay? And the advertiser is paying Microsoft advertising. And based on how many ads got used in your application, saw, clicked or whatever it is, you get the corresponding fee. Okay? The third thought was have a trial version and have a full version for free. That is also a good idea, but again it is as risky as this idea. The reason in that is, unless and until you have a very, very, very compelling proposition or a feature for which the people will want to buy the full version, it is very unlikely that people will go and pay after having used your free version. And that's what the trends or the numbers on the marketplaces show. People use the free version, but rarely go and buy the full version. Yeah.
Until the app is so much popularized, the people will not buy it. I think so. So
See,
it has to be marketed by someone.
Again, depends. You may market it, but the application is used by 10 people. So a lot of other combinations come into the picture. The thing is, yes, I'm not saying it's not possible. You have to think about where will it be a better idea. That's why. See, one important thing is, one way is not the best way. Depending upon what your application does, what the scenario is. See, in this particular case, this is a service. This is being used by common people, users. Okay, not everybody is going to keep this application all the time. So they are not going to see ads. It has to be contextual. So in this particular case, advertisement is possibly the best way to go, because it's subtle, it's behind the scenes, you don't have to do anything for it, and you will just get revenues based on the usage.
But people don't like advertisement in their app.
So that's what experience. We talk to.
Can't we sell our apps on marketplace without this advertisement?
Yeah, sure.
People would don't like this advertisement. Okay. Our app should be as simple and as informative. So people would not like this advertisement. So what if we give it to the marketplace without advertisement?
Fair enough. So
and that will not some small cost.
No.
So small cost.
As long as you are happy with that cost. That's the point. That's the point. So, I'm telling you statistics that applications above $5, 80% of them never even find a single user. So what will you price your application? $1 is the amount that typically people are still willing to pay to download an application.
That's also in India, very less people are.
Exactly. So how many applications will you download if you have to pay 50 rupees per application? That's the point I'm asking. So you have to think from that perspective. Now, ideally, if the entry cost is low, you don't have to pay anything. And if there is a small advertisement running there, you may not find it as offensive or as destructive as long as the application is doing something useful for you. Okay? And coming to your final thought, and I wanted to touch upon that also. In India, people may, I'll just ask the next door person, why do I need this application, right? That's an important point. You need to understand what are the scenarios that will fit into that or not.
Not only that, sometimes Metro don't have this network coverages also.
Fair enough. Okay, you forgot one very important point in what Subodh showed. Your point is valid as long as you feel, oh, I'm just getting the information inside the metro. But that's not what he showed actually. What he showed was, I am standing here and I want to find out the closest metro station. Okay, there is a feature. So coming back to that point, which are the features that you will prioritize in your application? Unless your application is solving a real need, okay, it will not do. If you can find the same information on chart inside the metro, why will you need this application? Okay, so that's why that feature goes down on priority. What is the killer feature in this application? The real feature.
You can access it from anywhere.
I am standing here, which is the nearest metro station to me. And And this is a question all of us face. Okay, whenever I have tried to use the metro, I face that question. Okay, which is the nearest metro. Obviously, there is a possibility of asking somebody here in India. Okay, now there is a difficulty. What suppose I went to pick up a friend just 3 days back at 11 o'clock in Noida. Okay, and I couldn't find anybody close by. Okay, so who is a friend that is there with you always? Okay. Exactly. So that's, you know, while I am not negating what you said, you still have use cases. You still have scenarios where your application makes sense.
Also to add to
Like
that,
someone also said that it could be used as a tourism.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the same thing. You can sell it to the tourism department.
Because language would be a problem there.
I
Right.
had one scenario, like if we are developing only the phone based, we are not using the web based, we are not accessing the internet, and we have application which runs only on the phone. And we want to use the advertisement on that, and the user doesn't want to connect to the internet. So then how will we overcome
So,
this? What is the
yeah,
possibility?
good point.
And the only way then to do it is probably what is called white labeling in the mobile industry. You know, you tie up with a few partners who give their advertisements to you, you bundle them along with the installation, put it on them, and it keeps on flashing. Okay, so that's the way. You know, it's
That is relevant to the application which we are.
exactly, it depends upon the application. If you don't want, because you know, you also have to take care. People don't like applications that are going to add significant amount of data transfer just because of apps. Okay, so that's where the advertising SDK also helps. It makes sure that the overhead on the application is going to be within a fixed limit. Okay, I'll pass
and
on.
trust me, just to add to that, who needs this app, right? I was also thinking, I'm a programmer myself, right? I was thinking in those lines. Just out of interest, what I built was, and that was long ago, 4 or 5 months back, right? I built a World Cup app, right? And only thing it showed was the schedule, right? And players with images, right? A little bit of player profile, and that was only sole purpose was just to see how it works and so on, right? And that was downloaded 608 times. That too in places where cricket is not a very popular game, like US, UK, right? So that just shows, right, how people are exploring all those things and the
How much was it priced for?
nothing. Zero.
So,
Now, there's one point, and I just want to quickly touch upon that. In pricing, you have to look at it in a slightly market perspective also. Generally, what happens is we are tempted to price an application for our effort. We feel that, you know what, I've spent 1 month for this application. If I would have been doing a job somewhere, I would have at least got this much. So now, because it is my application and that ways, I've spent, so you come up with a hypothetical figure of, you know, huge amount. You ultimately say, you know, in 1 month, I had 5 lakh rupees of effort on this application. Now, to recover this 5 lakh, I need to price this application like this. Okay, that's a dangerous strategy. Okay, that could backfire. It may work if it becomes as popular as Angry Birds, suppose, you know. But if it doesn't, then you won't find any balance. Remember one thing: in the mobile space, your application potentially has, you know, way too many customers than in the desktop world or in any other scenario. So, lowering the price and targeting more people is a better strategy than keeping the price high and targeting lesser.
This is playing on volume.
exactly.
Playing on volumes.
I think so Angry Birds is also for $3 something under 5.
Right, but it's still on the higher side in terms of you know, mobile applications pricing.
But it's still is very popular, so people are already downloading.
So exactly, you know, there are not.
That much popular, so people can pay you $4 or $5 for an application.
See, I will still not pay anything for Angry Birds. I'm that kind of a person. Okay.
It depends on user to user.
Exactly.
Don't use it for free.
Again, look at, and this is, you know, this is an endless conversation. We can keep on having this. Study a lot of researches that have been done on marketplaces. You know, having a number of applications applications on the marketplace doesn't mean anything, to be very honest. Look at the Angry Birds. If you look at what is the demographical information of people who are downloading Angry Birds, it's mostly students, teenagers and up till the age of 20, 21 times. Okay? So, those people are willing to pay money for an application because it makes it is their, that's their life at that point. You pay money, you will rather keep yourself hungry, but you will make sure that you get those pair of shoes. In college days, everybody has that thing. But once you enter into a different zone or into a different strata, okay, that is not how you will think about an application. Okay, I, as a user, may still go and pay $4 for this Delhi Metro application if it serves my purpose, okay, than pay $4 for Angry Birds. Okay, so it depends upon what you are using, who you are targeting. Another thing which you can keep in mind is you can add features that just make it super critical or super important to have that application, and that's where innovation lies. So depending upon where you monitor or where you want to target, you can put those kind of features.
Okay, so coming, so let me wrap it up.
Exactly.
Right. So, so just add, just
one more question. Like, as a starting developer, as a starting point, let's say I develop an application, a very small application, and price it for $0.99, and there are some 100 users. Let's say 100 users on it. So it would give me only $100, and let's say if I spend 1 month on it. So how much time would it take for me to get a lot of some money?
Basically become a millionaire. Okay?
I have to.
So see, let's look at it pragmatically. Okay, if you are going to build one application, I'll touch upon that point. If you are going to build one application, the probability or the likelihood of that becoming the next $1 billion application is, one in that many applications, in the sea of applications. If you build 100, it is 100 in that many sea of applications. If you build 1,000, it's that many sea of applications. Now, so as a developer, you cannot build 100 applications, right? In 1 month, in 1 year probably. So how do you work on it? Now, see, if you have a good idea, if you think you are convinced about that yourself, create that application, put it up on marketplace for free. Let people, check what is the usage. Are people even interested in that application? Then you will get an idea in a couple of months who is using, how many times people are using, and then you can accordingly strategize the next version. Instead of trying to build 10 different applications, add features to your application and make it a compelling proposition. Okay, so look at one feature in your application first, put that application, see how it's being used, add the next feature to the diagram, the next one, and that's all. That will make it easier for you with little effort, more chances of big success.
It's all about the idea. It's all about that's why it's named. It's all about the idea.
All about the
idea. Your idea will fetch you money, not the programming part.
Exactly.
Programming will just enable you to reach it out there.
Exactly.
Reach out
See,
to people, right?
This is a tool, ultimately, and I put it the other way now. 10 years ago, if you wanted to become an entrepreneur, what is the way? What were the possible avenues? Actually, I don't think even an idea would have helped in those days. 10 years back, forget about, computing wasn't even that cool 10 years back. You would come up with a brick and mortar idea first of all, okay? Approach a bank for a loan or find people who would invest in your idea, open up that and wait to be successful. Okay? And that's where I call the magic of software or the power of programming. Now today, if you have an idea, you don't need anything apart from a laptop and a few tools to actually test it out. I'm not saying that any idea will make you a millionaire. But what I'm saying is, yes, if you have an idea, you don't have to invest anything, you don't have to run after people to invest in that idea. And you can test it out right there in your room. Validates, yeah.
And trust me, because it's a new platform, right? If you venture it early, you will be benefited from it. It's as easy as that, right? Because ideas are out there, you just need to put it in place and put it in marketplace. So that's
And one final tip on this, okay? If you think you have an idea and if you feel it will take more than a month in Windows Phone 7 to put it up on marketplace, okay? Don't pursue that. Bring it down, lower the barrier, remove features, okay? Do something that you can do in maximum 1 month and put it up on marketplace. What I mean is, at least 5 hours of coding for 30 days, like 150 hours of coding.
That's how it is for every product. Even in real life products, that's what we do. Go to market as early as possible, see how the reactions are, take the feedback and then move forward.
And besides, you are not an organization, okay? So you don't have 15 developers or 20 developers building a product. Bring things within your control, okay? As much as a human brain can manage. And then build upon that.
And trust me, as a user, if you can think of something, it all runs some reviews, right? If I download some certain things or certain apps on my phone, I go ahead and read the reviews because there are nothing else I can trust on, right? So I go ahead, read the reviews. If I like the reviews, I download it, and I instead write the reviews again, right? So that's how it works. It's a democratic world out there, right? And most of you can manipulate one review, you can manipulate 2 reviews, but you can't manipulate a whole bunch of reviews which you are getting for your app, right? And they act as a positive feedback as well, right? You know what people want, right? And you can then again re-strategize according to what people want, right?